She risked everything for a man, not knowing he was a millionaire vampire. The city was alive with rain, each droplet sliding down slick streets like tears falling from a grieving sky. Streetlights cast long shadows that twisted over brick walls, painting the alleys in shades of gray and gold. In this city, most walked safely under umbrellas or the warm glow of lamps, but some wandered too far, too late, and found themselves in the arms of danger. Elara's heels clicked against the wet cobblestones as she hurried toward the subway station. Her coat, dark and heavy, clung to her body in the drizzle. Base. She held her bag close, feeling its weight against her chest. Nights like this reminded her of why she worked so hard. Her small apartment, her sick mother, the rent that never seemed to shrink no matter how many hours she worked. It was late. Too late, she thought. She had promised herself she would never walk alone in this part of the city after dark, but her shift at the cafe had run late again, and now she was paying the price. From the corner of her eye, she noticed movement. Two figures stepped out from a shadowed doorway. They were tall, rough-looking, and their eyes glinted with a sharp hunger. "Evening, miss," one said, voice low and rough. "Mind giving us your bag?" Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew better than to scream. Screams in this part of town often went unanswered. But before she could respond, a voice spoke from behind her. "Leave her alone!" The words were smooth, like silk, but carried a weight that made the air shift. Elara turned and saw a man stepping out from the shadows. His coat was dark, nearly blending with the night, and his face was pale, almost luminous in the dim light. His eyes were sharp and captivating, dark like polished obsidian. He did not move with the awkward stiffness of someone untrained. His presence alone seemed to bend the shadows, making the alley feel smaller and safer. The mugger sneered. "And who's going to stop us? You?" The man's lips curved into the faintest smile, almost amused. Then, in a movement too quick to follow, he lunged. The struggle was brief. One of the men fell to the ground with a grunt. The other retreated into the night, clearly unwilling to face someone so calm and commanding. Elara could only stare, but she had never seen anyone move like that. Like shadows themselves obeyed him. Her body trembled from fear, and something else, something she didn't yet understand. "You're safe," he said, voice low. "For now." Elara's words stuck in her throat. She wanted to ask who he was, why he had saved her, but all she could do was nod. "Thank you," she finally whispered. The man tilted his head, as if examining her. "You walk alone in dark alleys. You should not do that."
"I didn't have a choice," she said, a little defensively.
"I work late." He studied her for a long moment, his gaze intense. There was something about him that made her want to speak honestly, to tell him everything, her struggles, her fears, her dreams, but she could not. Something told her that secrets were safe with him, yet also dangerous. "You should go home," he said, almost a command, yet soft enough that she felt strangely compelled to obey. Elara hesitated. Will you come with me?" she asked, surprising herself. His smile was faint but unreadable. "I will, if you wish it." So they walked. Side by side, yet there was a distance she could not measure. He spoke little, only guiding her through dark streets that seemed unfamiliar, though she had walked them many times before. Every so often she would glance at him, noticing small things, how his hair never seemed wet from the rain, how his coat moved without making a sound, how his eyes lingered on her for a fraction longer than necessary. Who are you? She asked at last, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and curiosity.
He did not answer immediately.
Bay. Instead, he looked at the sky, where clouds hid the moon, and then back at her. His eyes glowed faintly under the streetlights, catching her off guard. Psst. I am someone who is not as ordinary as you believe, he said finally. Elara laughed nervously.
But doesn't answer my question.
He inclined his head, acknowledging her persistence. Perhaps you do not need to know just yet.
She wanted to press further, but she didn't. Some part of her knew that asking more might be dangerous, or that this man would reveal the truth when he was ready. As they approached her apartment building, the rain eased into a light drizzle, mist curling around the edges of the street. She felt a pang of regret that their walk was ending. There was an unspoken tension between them, a pull that made her stomach ache, a longing she could not name. Thank you for everything, she said, voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, stepping back into the shadows. Be careful. The night has many dangers, and not all are so merciful. Elara watched him disappear into the darkness. She felt both relief and disappointment. Relief that she was safe, disappointment that she did not know his name, his story, or the truth behind his unnerving presence. That night, sleep eluded her. She lay in bed, listening to the rain patter against her window, replaying the events over and over. Every detail haunted her. The cold precision of his movements, the sharpness of his gaze, the way he seemed to exist both within the shadows and apart from them. She tried to tell herself it was just a man, that she was imagining things. Yet deep inside, she knew it was more than that. Days passed, and life seemed to continue as normal. Elara returned to work, juggling cups of coffee and pastries, smiling for customers, hiding the restless curiosity that had taken root in her heart. But her mind wandered constantly to him. Where had he come from? Why had he saved her? What secrets did he hide behind that pale face and dark eyes? Then, on a gray morning, he appeared again. She saw him across the street, standing perfectly still, watching her as if he had never left.
Breath.
Her heart skipped a beat. You again, she said, though her voice shook.
He crossed the street with effortless grace, each step silent, controlled, and precise. I told you to be careful, he said, his voice carrying that same quiet authority that made it impossible to ignore. I am careful, she replied, trying to mask the flutter of fear and fascination in her chest. You are not, he said, faint amusement in his tone. And yet you continue to risk yourself. Elara swallowed hard. She did not know why she continued to be drawn to him. There was danger, certainly, but there was also a strange comfort in his presence, as if shadows themselves could protect her. I didn't mean to, she began. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the faintest hint of red in the corners of his eyes, a flicker of something primal. Something ancient passed over his features, but he masked it quickly. You have a fire, he said softly. A warmth that should not exist in your world. It is, but rare. Elara felt heat rise to her cheeks. No one had ever described her like that. Rare, important, extraordinary. The words made her heart ache, but also made her question him even more. What was he? Why did he say such things? Before she could ask, he turned and walked away, disappearing down an alley as silently as he had appeared. Elara stood frozen, rain dripping from her hair. heart racing, mind spinning. She knew, deep down, that her life had changed forever. The stranger in the moonlight had awakened something inside her. A longing, a fear, a curiosity that would not be denied. Best. And yet, even as the fear gnawed at her, she could not help but hope to see him again. Because in the darkness where the city's shadows grew long and secrets whispered in the corners, something stirred. A presence that was both terrifying and irresistible. And Elara, unwittingly, had stepped into a world where danger and desire walked side by side, where every choice could change everything. She did not know it yet, but her life and her heart would never be the same. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective, like mirrors that held the city's secrets. Elara walked home with her mind tangled in memories of the stranger. But she could not forget the sharp pull of his gaze, the strange warmth in his words, or the fleeting red in his eyes. Something about him felt eternal, something she could not explain. She tried to focus on her life, her work, the bills, her mother's needs. But when she closed her eyes at night, she saw him, pale, commanding, moving through the shadows with ease. He was not human, and yet he had saved her. And the thought of seeing him again filled her with fear and longing. It happened faster than she expected. One evening, after another long shift at the cafe, a black limousine rolled to a silent stop in front of her apartment. Bet. Its tinted windows reflected the dim streetlights. She hesitated, heart pounding. Then the door opened, and he stepped out. "Get in," he said, voice calm and commanding.
I can't," she stammered, the caution in her mind warring with curiosity.
"You can," he replied. And that was all. Before she could protest further, he opened the passenger door. Something about him left her no choice but to comply. As she slid into the leather seat, warmth and faint scent of rain and something sweet and strange surrounded her. He closed the door, and the car moved silently, gliding through the city streets. She glanced at him. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead, sharp, alert, and yet unreadable. He had said so little, yet she felt as if he had already spoken volumes to her heart. "Where are we going?" she asked finally. "You will see," he said. It is a world few humans ever witness. Hours passed. The city grew smaller. The lights faded, and eventually they drove through a forested road that seemed untouched by time. Shadows of trees stretched like fingers over the road. She felt her pulse quicken, not just from the unfamiliar surroundings, but from the quiet confidence in him. Finally, they arrived at a massive estate, far beyond anything she had imagined. Its walls were black stone, towers rising into the misty sky like fingers reaching for the clouds. Windows glowed faintly with golden light. The gates opened silently as if expecting them, and the car rolled into a courtyard lined with statues whose eyes seemed to follow every movement. Elara stepped out, her breath catching. She had never seen anything so grand, so otherworldly. "Welcome," he said softly. "This is my home." She wanted to ask why it was so dark, why it seemed both alive and cold, but she found herself speechless. The air was thick with quiet power, the sense of ages moving silently in the halls and corridors. As they entered, she noticed figures in the shadows, watching. Speak. They did not speak, but their presence was commanding. People who were not quite human, and yet not quite entirely of this world. Elara felt a shiver run down her spine. This is incredible," she whispered, barely able to comprehend it. "It is not merely beauty," he said. It is order, power, and secrets. Something you will learn soon. Be it. They moved through grand halls adorned with dark velvet curtains and golden sconces. Paintings of men and women whose eyes seemed to follow her made her stomach twist. She realized that this house, this world, was ancient, built on wealth, power, and shadows older than the city itself.
"Why am I here?" she asked, trying to steady her voice.
You are here because fate does not leave ordinary things untouched, he said. You have curiosity, courage. You are alive in ways few humans are. She glanced at him, and the faintest warmth stirred in her chest. There was truth in his words, yet there was danger too, a warning she could not name. Over the next few days he showed her pieces of his world. Bay, a library filled with books older than nations, halls that echoed with whispers, and rooms where light seemed to bend strangely. She met others, allies who served him, and some who seemed more like shadows than people. Everyone moved with careful grace, eyes alert, yet none spoke of him directly. One evening, as they walked through a balcony overlooking the estate's gardens, she finally dared to ask what she had feared most. You're not human, are you? She asked, voice trembling. He stopped, looking at her with a weight that pressed on her chest. No, I am not. The words hit her harder than she expected. She had felt it, seen it in the shadows of his movements, the way he avoided the sun, but hearing him admit it made her pulse quicken. What does that mean? She asked, trying to understand, trying not to feel fear. It means that the world I inhabit is older than yours and darker, he said. It means I have lived centuries and carried burdens most cannot imagine. It means I am dangerous, and yet I feel drawn to you. Elara's heart raced, drawn to her, but why her? She was ordinary, mortal, fragile, frowned in despair. And yet there was something in his gaze, a hunger not just for blood but for connection, that made her ache. You should, he said softly, almost as if reading her thoughts. Briss, this world is not kind to humans. And yet, you remain. I don't want to leave, she admitted, though fear lingered at the edges of her words. I want to understand. I want to know you. He studied her silently, eyes glowing faintly in the golden candlelight of the balcony. Finally, he said, Then you must be careful. Every choice you make here changes more than your life. It touches mine, and it touches things beyond us, things that can be cruel. Elara swallowed hard, her fear mixing with longing.
I will be careful, she promised, though she did not yet know what that truly meant.
Bet. The nights grew strange. Lucian moved like a shadow, present yet absent, always aware, always watching. Sometimes she would wake in the middle of the night and see him standing by her window, gazing at the moonlight with an intensity that made her heart ache. She never understood how he moved so silently, so easily, as if the night itself obeyed him. But one night curiosity overcame her caution. She followed him through the halls, her steps careful on the polished stone floors. He moved toward a tower at the edge of the estate, a place that seemed forbidden, yet impossibly alluring. When she reached the top, she saw him standing by a window looking down at the city below. Why are you here? He asked, sensing her presence without turning. I wanted to know why you saved me, she said softly. He turned, his eyes flickering red for just a moment before returning to their dark, unreadable shade.
I saved you because I could not do otherwise, he said.
Because I saw something in you, a fire, a life force that called to me in ways I cannot explain.
Aelara's breath caught. She wanted to reach for him, to bridge the impossible distance, but she remembered the warning in his words.
He was dangerous, yet she could not turn away. Breath, you're not just powerful, she whispered. You're lonely. He looked at her, and for the first time the mask of control faltered. A faint shadow of pain crossed his features.
Loneliness is a companion I have known for centuries, he said.
And yet, meeting you, I feel a pull I cannot resist. Breaths. Her heart ached with understanding and longing. In that moment, danger and desire mingled so tightly that she could feel them in her bones. Bet. She knew that this world, the wealth, the shadows, the power, was not hers, yet she could not leave it behind, not while he existed within it. But the night would not be quiet. A sudden crash echoed from below. Bet. Shadows moved unnaturally in the halls. Figures emerged from the darkness. Creatures of power and intent, rivals who had come to challenge him, to threaten everything he had built. Bah. Lucien's calm vanished. In a blur of movement he was gone from the tower, and Elara found herself alone, the fear and awe twisting together in her chest. She wanted to follow, to help, to understand, but she was only human. From the window she saw him fight. Elegant, precise, terrifying. His enemies fell or fled, shadows bending around him as if the night itself obeyed him. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the danger ended. Silence returned, thick and heavy, leaving only the echo of adrenaline and awe. When he returned to the tower, his expression was unreadable, though his eyes held something raw, unguarded.
You should not have seen that, he said, almost gently. I
had to, she whispered. I cannot turn away from you, even when it terrifies me. He studied her, and for a long moment neither spoke. Then he said quietly, You are brave, Bae, and reckless. Perhaps it is why I am drawn to you. Perhaps it is why you have no choice but to be part of this world. Elara shivered, knowing he was right. There was no turning back. The allure, the danger, the pull of something beyond comprehension, it had claimed her. And though fear lingered, excitement and longing burned brighter. The night stretched on, the estate quiet once more. But Elara understood something crucial. The man she had risked everything for was not human, not merely wealthy, not merely powerful. He was something ancient, something dangerous, and something she could not resist. And yet the question remained, would knowing him cost her everything she held dear, or would it transform her life in ways she could never imagine? The city outside the estate was quiet under a gray sky, the kind of gray that made the world feel heavier, as if shadows themselves lingered longer than they should. Inside the vast halls of the estate, the warmth of candles and roaring fireplaces offered a stark contrast to the chill that Elara felt in her chest. Since the attack days ago, she had not left the estate. Lucien had insisted, softly but firmly, that it was too dangerous for her to walk the city streets alone.
He had healed the minor injuries she had sustained during the chaos, though she could see faint marks lingering under her skin, glowing faintly in the candlelight.
Elara, he said one morning, voice calm but layered with tension. You cannot stay hidden forever. The world you live in and the world I inhabit will collide, whether you wish it or not. A careful distraction, a way to occupy her restless mind. I don't want to leave, she said. Even if it's dangerous, I need to be here. I need to understand you, to understand this place. He studied her silently. In that look, she felt the weight of centuries, of battles fought in shadows, of loneliness carried like armor. You are brave, perhaps too brave, he said finally, and reckless. But that is why you are alive, and why I cannot stay away from you. Her heart fluttered at the confession. She wanted to step closer, to feel the warmth of him, but she also knew that stepping closer could mean stepping into danger. He was not human. He was centuries old, powerful, and unpredictable. Bed, do you fear me? She asked softly. I fear what I am capable of, he admitted. I fear the darkness I carry. And yet, when I am with you, it feels as though some small part of that darkness could be tamed. Perhaps that is why I let you stay. Elara felt a mix of relief and worry. She had never known anyone like him, someone so dangerous yet so intensely protective. And that protection came with a price. Bespis. Later that day, she wandered the estate's gardens. Despite the grandeur and beauty, a quiet tension filled the air. The trees were tall and dark, their branches twisted like hands reaching for the sky. Statues of unknown figures stared silently from the shadows. But she felt eyes on her, not human eyes, not ordinary eyes. Somewhere in the estate, forces older than herself moved quietly, unseen. She did not notice when Lucian stepped silently beside her. You should not wander alone, he said, his voice low, carrying that same authority she could never ignore. I cannot stay hidden all the time, she said, turning to face him. I need to breathe, to move. And I need to understand this world. He nodded, his dark eyes reflecting a storm of thought. Very well, he said, but understand this. Every step you take here is a step between life and danger. Not all who dwell in these shadows will welcome you.
She nodded, feeling the weight of his words.
She had seen glimpses of it, the subtle tension among his allies, the watchful figures in the halls, the whispers she could not hear but somehow felt. And yet she was drawn to this world as if something in her had been waiting for it all her life. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the gardens. Lucian stopped by a fountain, its waters dark and still. There are others, he said, his voice dropping. Rivals who will not hesitate to strike, and you. You are human. Your presence here puts you at risk. Elara felt fear rise sharply in her chest. What kind of danger? She asked, voice trembling. Some wish to challenge me, he said, his gaze distant. They wish to take power or to destroy it. And any human close to me becomes a target. Her mind raced. She had felt the danger before, glimpsed it in his world, but to hear it spoken aloud made it real. And yet, leaving was impossible. The thought of leaving him, of walking away from the danger and the connection she felt, made her chest ache. I will face it,
she said quietly. Whatever comes, I will not leave you.
He turned to her, eyes flickering faintly with something she could not name.
You are extraordinary, he said, and reckless.
Perhaps it is why I am drawn to you. They stood together as the first night stars appeared in the sky. The city beyond the estate shimmered faintly in the distance, unaware of the battles and secrets hidden in the shadows of this ancient place. Then, suddenly, the silence was broken. A shadow moved unnaturally along the garden wall. Before Elara could react, Lucian stepped forward, his movements faster than she could follow, and the shadowed figure halted, retreating into the night. "You saw that," he said, turning to her.
This is only the beginning! What was that? She asked, heart racing. Rivals, he said simply.
And they will not stop. Not while I am alive. Breath. This world, dangerous and dark, was thrilling in ways she had never imagined. And she was a part of it now, whether she wanted it or not. Over the following days, tension in the estate grew. Lucian trained her in small ways, teaching her awareness, how to move quietly, how to notice things others missed. Bleh. She was clumsy at first, but he was patient, guiding her with quiet strength. Always close enough to protect, but never so close as to make her feel dependent.
You must be vigilant, he said one evening as they practiced in the dimly lit training hall.
Curiosity can save you, and curiosity can kill you. Elara nodded, sweating and exhausted. Yet each lesson brought her closer to understanding him, understanding his world, and understanding herself. She began to see the world, not just in light and dark, but in shades of shadow, nuance, and hidden power. One night, she could not sleep. She wandered to the balcony overlooking the city. The moonlight touched the rooftops, silver and cold, as though the world itself held its breath. She felt him behind her before he spoke. "You think you can stand in this world without fear?" he said softly. I try," she whispered. "I want to be brave." He came closer, so close she could feel the faint warmth from him. "Bravery is not the absence of fear," he said. "It is standing in spite of it. And you are braver than most humans I have known. Perhaps braver than I am." Her chest ached. There was longing in his words, a truth she could not fully grasp. He was powerful, centuries old, and yet he carried a loneliness so deep it made her want to hold him, to touch him, even knowing the danger it could bring. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the estate, a door slamming in the distance, a shadow moving faster than it should. Lucian's expression hardened instantly. "They are here," he said, his voice a whisper yet sharp as steel. "And you must stay behind. Despair." "I will not," she said, stepping toward him. "I will not hide.
I will face it with you." He paused, staring at her with intensity as if weighing centuries of caution against a single human will. Finally, he nodded.
"Very well, but you must stay close." "Do not let them touch you." Figures emerged from the shadows, faster than her eyes could follow, moving with precision and intent. Lucian stepped forward, a blur of strength and grace, his movements so fast and fluid that Elara could barely comprehend them. His enemies fell back, either fleeing or retreating into the darkness. Yet she could see the marks of the attack, walls scratched, furniture overturned, and the faint scent of ancient power lingering in the air. Through it all, Elara stayed close to him, watching, learning, and feeling a connection that deepened with each passing second. Fear intertwined with fascination, and she realized that her heart was no longer her own. It belonged in part to the man who moved through shadows like a god among mortals. When the danger ended, silence fell over the estate once more. Lucian looked at her, eyes flickering with the faintest red in the candlelight. "You are reckless," he said softly.
I am not afraid, she whispered, though her heart was pounding, her hands shaking. No, he admitted, voice low.
Becues, you are not, and that is why I cannot let you go. Elara felt the truth of his words in her bones. She had stepped into a world of shadows, of power, of danger, and she had no choice but to remain. The heart she thought was ordinary was now bound to a world she could barely understand, and to a man who was no ordinary man. As the night deepened, she realized the truth of what she had risked, her life, her safety, her heart, and yet she would risk it all again just to be near him, to touch the edges of a world both terrifying and irresistible. The night outside was still, but inside the estate pulsed with life, with secrets, with the quiet hum of danger. And Elara, standing in the shadows beside him, knew she was no longer merely human. She was part of something ancient, powerful, and dangerous, and she could not turn away. Bess. The moon hung low over the city, full and red, casting the streets in a strange, haunting light. Shadows stretched long and sharp, twisting around buildings and alleys, and in the distance clouds moved like slow, silent phantoms. The city slept, unaware of the forces gathering in its shadowed corners. But inside the estate the world was awake with tension, anticipation, and danger. Elara stood by a window looking out over the city. Her hands were clenched on the windowsill, her heart beating in a rhythm that matched the distant hum of the night. She had learned so much in the days since the last attack. The depth of Lucian's power, the fragility of life, and the terrifying allure of being close to someone immortal. She had also learned something more, a truth that had slowly burned into her heart. She could not leave him, not now, not ever.
Lucian appeared silently behind her, as he always did.
His presence filled the room, tall, commanding, and impossibly elegant. The faintest glow of red lingered in his eyes, though he had hidden it from her until this moment. "They are coming," he said softly, voice low and dangerous. "Tonight, they will test everything. And I cannot let them touch you." Elara turned to him. Fear and resolve mixed in her expression. "Then we face it together," she said, surprising herself with the courage in her own words.
He studied her, his gaze intense, as if measuring the strength of her heart against the danger approaching. Finally, he nodded.
"Very well, but know this. You are taking a risk greater than any you have ever faced." By some things, some battles cannot be undone. The estate shifted around them. Shadows stretched and moved, responding to Lucian's command. The walls whispered of ancient power, of centuries of blood, wealth, and secrets. Figures emerged from hidden passages, allies ready to fight, their loyalty unwavering. And somewhere beyond the walls, enemies moved in the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The first clash came as the moon reached its highest point. A sound like cracking ice echoed through the halls, and figures emerged from the shadows outside, dark shapes moving with deadly intent. Lucian stepped forward, a blur of motion, his strength and speed unmatched. The rivals attacked, but each movement was met with precision. A counter, a block, or a strike that sent them staggering back. Elara stayed close, heart pounding, watching him move. She felt fear, yes, but also awe, and something deeper. A connection that made the danger almost bearable. She had stepped into his world fully, and she could not escape the pull, even if she wanted to. One of the rivals broke through the outer defense, a figure faster and stronger than the rest. Lucian moved to intercept, and in that moment, Elara saw something she had never seen before. He hesitated. Not out of fear, but out of concern for her. That hesitation was enough. The figure struck him, knocking him back with a force that left him grimacing, and for the first time Elara realized how fragile he truly could be, despite all his power. "Lucian!" she shouted, rushing forward. He caught her by the shoulders, eyes flashing red for just a heartbeat, and the enemy fell back, unwilling to continue against his fury. "Stay close," he ordered, voice low but firm. "Do not believe me. Not now."
Elara nodded, her heart hammering. She realized, in a way she hadn't before, that their bond had grown beyond curiosity or fascination.
It was a connection forged in danger, in trust, and in something older than herself. She could not imagine life without him, and the thought of losing him terrified her more than anything else. The battle raged, shadows twisting around the estate, the air charged with power and tension, speed that seemed unnatural, his eyes flickering red as he defended both his home and the woman who had become more than just a companion to him.
Elara felt fear gnaw at her chest, but she also felt strength. Her courage, her heart, her will, fueled by the need to protect and to stand beside him. Then a figure broke through the defense, stronger and faster than the rest.
Back, Lucian lunged to intercept, and in the clash, he was thrown to the ground, wounded. Elara's breath caught. Speck. She ran to him, falling to her knees beside him. "Lucian!" she cried, shaking him gently. "Stay with me." He looked at her, his face pale even under the faint red glow of his eyes. I am fine, he said, though the weakness in his tone betrayed him. "You cannot risk yourself."
Not for me. I choose to risk, she said firmly.
"I cannot leave you." His eyes softened, and for the first time she saw the centuries of loneliness and regret that he carried. "Then, perhaps it is not just my fate," he murmured. "Perhaps ours is linked." Her hands touched his face, feeling the coolness of his skin, and she realized in that instant that the bond between them was more than attraction. It was trust, courage, and the willingness to face impossible odds together. As she helped him to his feet, the rivals regrouped, moving in a coordinated strike. Lucian's strength was faltering, his speed diminished by the wound, and Elara knew she had to act. Drawing on the lessons he had taught her, she moved with awareness, using the shadows, the cover of the night, and the instinct that had grown inside her. She distracted the enemies, creating openings for Lucian to strike, guiding him, supporting him. Together they were unstoppable. Her courage combined with his power created a force that no enemy could withstand. One by one, the attackers fell or fled, the shadows retreating as Lucian's control over his world strengthened. Finally, silence returned. The estate was quiet once more, but the air remained thick with tension. Lucian turned to her, his eyes glowing faintly red, then returning to their usual dark hue. You were extraordinary, he said quietly, voice low but filled with awe. Brave, fearless, Barat, and necessary. You changed the course of this night. Elara felt her chest swell with relief and pride. I could not have done it without you, she whispered. Besa. No, he said, taking her hands in his. I could not have done it without you either. You reminded me that even centuries of solitude cannot erase the need for connection.
You have
awakened something in me I thought lost forever. Bess, in his presence, she felt more alive than ever, more human, yet more connected to something beyond her understanding. She realized that their bond was not merely desire, it was trust, redemption, and a promise forged in shadow and light. The first rays of dawn approached, pale and fragile.
Lucian's expression darkened.
The world will never forgive our choices, he said softly. There will always be danger. And yet, I would face it all again if it means standing beside you. Bye.
Elara felt tears prick her eyes, but she smiled, fierce and tender. And I would face it all with you.
Bears. No matter what comes, we are together. He drew her close, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Bay. The city outside woke slowly, unaware of the battles fought in shadowed halls, unaware of the bond forged between human and immortal, between courage and power. Then he spoke, voice barely more than a whisper. Bet, there is still work to do. Shadows will return. Bess, enemies will rise, and yet we endure. Together. Bay. Elara leaned her head against his chest, listening to the slow, steady beat of his heart, or what she imagined was a heart. She knew deep inside that the world they had entered would never be ordinary again. But for the first time, fear and longing were balanced with hope. They had faced darkness and survived. They had risked everything and found each other. As the sun rose, faint and golden, over the city, the estate seemed to breathe. The danger had passed, but the bond remained, stronger than ever. And in that quiet, precious moment, Elara realized something vital. Love, courage, and trust could transform even the darkest of worlds. But even as she held him, she felt it. The faintest pulse of power in the distance, a whisper of danger yet to come. The world was vast, and shadows always lingered. Yet for now they had each other, and that was enough. They had crossed worlds, faced enemies, and stood together in the heart of shadow, breath. And though the night would return, though dangers would rise again, they had discovered something eternal, a bond that no darkness could break. Elara closed her eyes, feeling his presence, feeling the warmth and the danger, and whispered, "No matter what comes, I will stay." Lucian's hands tightened around hers, eyes soft yet fierce. "And I will not let you go." Pay.
Not now. Not ever.
The city stretched before them, bathed in the first light of dawn. Shadows lingered. Secrets remained. But love, dangerous, impossible, beautiful, had found its place in the heart of the night. And in that moment neither mortal nor immortal could deny it. Some bonds were stronger than time, stronger than fear, stronger than life itself.